In the kingdom of Zephyra, where the winds whispered ancient secrets and the skies painted their moods across the heavens, there lived a king whose heart was as vast as the kingdom he ruled. King Cyrus had long been the protector of Zephyra, a land blessed by the winds, but cursed with perilous storms that raged for days on end. Despite his strength, there was one storm that had eluded him, a force more powerful than the winds themselves: doubt. For years, Zephyra had been plagued by a storm unlike any other, a tempest known as the Sapphire Flame. Its winds were as cold as ice and its fury unmatched. No one knew where it came from, but its arrival always seemed to signal destruction, pulling ships from their course, toppling towers, and stealing the hopes of the people. The people of Zephyra believed the storm was an omen, a sign that their kingdom would soon fall. King Cyrus had fought countless battles with the storm, but with every victory, the Sapphire Flame returned, stronger than before. His people began to lose faith. The winds whispered that even the mightiest of kings could not stop what was inevitable. On the eve of another terrible storm, Princess Ivana, the king's only daughter, stood by the window in her chamber, gazing out at the darkening sky. Her heart ached with the weight of her father's burden. King Cyrus had tried everything to calm the Sapphire Flame, but it seemed that no power, no matter how great, could quell its rage. "My father is a king," she whispered to herself. "But he is also a man who feels the same fear as we all do." That night, a visitor arrived at the castle, a mysterious traveler known only as the Sky Wanderer. He was a man of few words, but his presence was enough to stir something deep within the princess's heart. He had wandered the winds for years, seeking answers to the world's greatest mysteries, and in his eyes, there was something no one else could see: hope. The Sky Wanderer came to the throne room where King Cyrus sat, his face marked with the heavy toll of 1,000 sleepless nights. "Your Majesty," the Wanderer said, bowing low, "the Sapphire Flame is not a storm. It is a cry for help." King Cyrus looked up, eyes weary but sharp. "A cry for help?" he repeated. "What do you mean?" "The storm is a destroyer, not a beggar." The Wanderer shook his head. "The winds that rage, the flames that scorch the skies, they are not an enemy to be fought. They are the voice of Zephyra itself. The kingdom is in pain, Your Majesty. It longs for something it has lost." Princess Ivana, who had silently listened, stepped forward. "What has it lost?" she asked. The Wanderer turned to her, his eyes filled with understanding. "Hope. Zephyra once thrived because its people believed in the winds, in the promise of a better tomorrow. But now, they are afraid of the storm, they are afraid of the unknown." King Cyrus clenched his fists. "I have fought with every ounce of my strength to protect them. How can they lose faith? How can I restore what has been lost?" The Sky Wanderer's gaze softened. "The Sapphire Flame can only be quelled by the light that shines within, not the force of the wind or the might of kings. You must show your people that even in the storm, there is beauty, there is light, and there is love." At that moment, Princess Ivana understood. The storm was not just a physical force, it was the reflection of the people's fears, their growing distrust in their king, and the loss of belief in themselves. It was up to her and her father to restore that belief. That night, as the Sapphire Flame began to stir on the horizon, the people gathered at the castle, their faces drawn with fear. King Cyrus stood before them, his voice steady but filled with an undeniable emotion. "Zephyra," he said, "I stand before you not as a king, but as a father, a man who shares your fears. But I also stand here with a heart full of hope. The winds that blow do not define us. We are defined by how we stand in the face of those winds. I ask you now, will you stand with me?" Princess Ivana stood beside him, her voice clear and strong. "Together, we will light the Sapphire Flame with the fire of our hearts. We will face the storm, not with fear, but with courage and with the certainty that we are never alone." As the storm's winds howled outside, the people of Zephyra raised their voices in unison. For the first time in years, the winds seemed to pause, the storm easing as the people's belief was rekindled. And in that moment, the Sapphire Flame, the tempest that had once threatened to tear Zephyra apart, was no longer a force of destruction. It became a symbol of the kingdom's resilience, its unbreakable spirit. The winds that had once raged against them now whispered a new promise. Zephyra would always endure, for as long as its people never lost the light within. The story teaches that true strength comes not from fighting storms, but from how we respond to them. In times of hardship, unity, hope, and resilience light our path. By supporting each other and believing in our inner strength, we can overcome any challenge. Even in the darkest times, our courage can guide us through.